5 European countries have accused Russia's Kremlin of using a rare frog poison to kill opposition leader Alexei Navalny in an Arctic prison 2 years ago. The staunch critic of Russian President Vladimir Putin was serving a 19-year sentence. Britain, France, Germany, Sweden and the Netherlands say samples from Navalny's body revealed a toxin found in the skin of dart frogs native to South America. The European nations say it is, quote, highly likely this resulted in his death. The Russian government has denied any responsibility for Navalny's death. For more on this, I'm joined by Marc-Michael Blum, a biochemist at Blum Scientific Services in Hamburg. That's a consultancy providing expertise in chemical, biological, radiological, and nuclear defense. Thank you very much for joining us. Just tell us more about this frog poison and what it does to a human body.
Yes, good afternoon, and thank you for having me. Indeed, the compound that was identified called epibutidine is a highly obscure poisonous compound. As said, it comes from was first found in South American poisonous frogs, where they excrete this poison on their skin, making them self-poisonous. They don't make this poison, the frogs don't make it, they eat it through their diet and then expose it on their skin. Found in the 1970s and only really understood in its structure in the 1990s. So if you want to poison somebody with this and you are not happening to be a tribe somewhere in the South American jungle, no, you don't go and collect frogs. This is not how you make it. You have to make it synthetically in a laboratory, which is a pretty tedious process. The poison itself actually interferes with the way the nervous system of the human body transmits nerve signals. So if you want to contract your muscles, for example, it will interfere with this process, your brain signal, making your muscle contract. And in the end, that means at very high doses, you suffer from paralysis, seizures, and eventually death by, for example, respiratory failure.
Right. I mean, look, from what you're saying, it sounds like a very dangerous toxin. I'm just wondering, how would investigators analyze remains for such a toxin?
It is extremely potent, that is true. But that also means that within a victim, the concentration of this poison, this toxin doesn't have to be extremely high. Of course, you take normal precautionary measures simply also to protect yourself. I mean, if you're dealing with human remains, you would do that because there might also be biological risks present. But typical lab procedures, including gloves and working in a fume cupboard or a safety workbench, are totally sufficient to protect yourself.
Right. So we're talking about this. Navalny died, what, 2 years ago? How credible is this report, in your opinion, based on all that you know, how long this toxin can live in the remains of a body, for instance? How credible does this make it?
I think the report is highly credible, and this has to do with the specific nature also of the toxin that was used. There are some that are getting rapidly metabolized by your body. Your body breaks it down, and if you're lucky, you are just able to find maybe some degradation products. Epibutidine is not metabolized very quickly, rather on the contrary, it's actually not touched at all. And when the body dies, there's also no chance to excrete it in urine, for example. So the toxin stays around in the corpse and can then, if the remains are properly preserved, then still be analyzed and found months or even years later.
I see. So I'm also wondering why this was published now, which connects to how long would a proper analysis typically take?
The real complication for a laboratory that is tasked with analyzing samples and finding out what, in this case, the cause of death was, is that you have to specifically look for this poison. You cannot just say, okay, let's screen for something. Yes, you can screen, but because the concentrations of the toxin in the body are so low, you have to do something what we call targeted analysis. You have to look specifically for one poison and one toxin at a time. So that might actually take quite some while, because people will go through a list of suspect toxins, and then they have to work themselves down this list. That can take quite some while. Once you have a hit, then you will, of course, confirm your results. You will also make sure that you run blank samples, so you know that you don't have contamination in your instrument. So there's a very elaborate process that you really have proof in the end.
Right. Now, so, Russia has previously been linked to high-profile poisoning cases. From all that you've explained, this is a toxin that really needed time to produce. I'm just wondering why toxins are often used in cases of targeted attacks, especially by Russia, as is normally reported.
Well, both toxins, which are toxic chemicals made by living organisms, in this case, the frogs or the frog's diet. Of course, there are also synthetic toxic compounds like the Novichok, which Navalny was poisoned with first. Their advantage is that, on the one hand, a perpetrator might actually get away easier, because there's normally a certain time between exposure, show of symptoms, and then death. While if you shoot somebody, you need relatively close access and you have the effect immediately. So there is a bit of a chance to get away. There's potential deniability. Oh, it wasn't us, and maybe there was no poison at all. So a lot of possibility to try to throw a lot of smoke candles, so to speak.
I see.
That is actually a significant advantage versus, say, more kinetic or traditional means like shooting somebody, throwing somebody from a bridge or out of a window.
Right. Let me ask you this before you leave us. You've worked at the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons. Now, if a state were found to have used a prohibited toxin, would that constitute a breach of the Chemical Weapons Convention, of which Russia is a member of?
That is a relatively difficult to answer question, because in case of the Novichok poisoning, which happened first in Russia with Alexei Navalny, it was very clear, because the toxic compound used then was made for military purposes. It was clearly a synthetic chemical. It was not naturally occurring. However, the use of any kind of toxic chemical in a setting of warfare is illegal. So even if you would use epibutidine in warfare, that is a breach of the convention, very clearly. This, of course, is a targeted assassination. You might also see it as a kind of hybrid warfare or something. So I'm very, very sure this will be raised at the OPCW, as already announced by the 5 countries.
Okay. Marc-Michael Blum with Blum Scientific. That's a consultancy company that provides expertise in defense from chemical and biological weapons. Thanks a lot. I've learned a lot from you.
Thank you very much.